flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening. Personal appearances? Any personal appearances? All right, let's go to the minutes. We've got two sets of minutes from the 17th of last month and then a week ago today.
I'd move to approve the minutes from the November 17th park board meeting and the December 8th special park board.
Commissioner Emery, and seconded by Commissioner Kitzman. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, bills this month, $632,435.92, and a Jared Olson standing in front of us.
Park Board President, Commissioners, I do have one additional invoice I put in front of you. It's for DL Markey for the fireside demo. It's their invoice for $84,000. They did finish up today. Again, other than a little bit of site cleanup, all the demo and grading are complete. They will be back in the spring to do the black dirt and seeding and do some more fine grading at that time. Ackerman's will withhold $25,000 until that part is complete. So I'm asking for approval of $84,000 tonight.
Thus making the new number 716,435.92. All right, thanks.
I'll make a motion to pay the bill of $716,435.92.
Motion and a second by Commissioner Hovda. Discussion? Discussion? Ellie?
Hovda?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Emery?
Yes.
Petition?
Yes.
Olson?
Yes. Salaries of $287,350 and a penny.
Make a motion to pay the salaries.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Discussion? Discussion? Go ahead, Ellie.
Hovda?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Emery?
Yes.
Petition?
Yes.
Olson?
Yes. All right, financials, anything to, nothing.
Our audit from last year is almost complete. We got a draft of it this week to look at, so it should be finished up fairly soon.
Okay. Department reports, we kept everybody at home. Jared, do you have anything that anyone wanted to say or add or?
No department does have anything to add to their reports. The only thing I had in mind, again, I want to thank all the department heads and staff for doing a great job this year. Happy Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. I'd answer any questions at this time.
Anything for Jared, guys?
That cost on demolition was pretty good, wasn't it? Didn't we anticipate early that it might even be more than that?
Yeah, early on we thought it'd be somewhere in the 250 to 300 mark. But once they got into it, the total project was just over 100,000.
All right, Ellie or Scott, do you have anything that you want to add at all or?
I'd echo Jared, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and as you can hear, our programs are back on, and so adult and youth started up today, so that's always a good thing.
On my end, I think the biggest thing is been nice to have a full year complete combined with the rec. I think it's been awesome. I think we've been able to, even in, say, the face of adversity, we've been able to do some pretty cool things. We have a Santa's mailbox out there right now, so we've been able to help the big guy out with getting some letters in. We've had over, I think we're at 200 letters at this point. So, and that's just thanks to additional staff. So it's been a really good year, getting to know personalities and strengths and ideas. So thanks to everybody for that. It's nice to have the team of people that we have with us for sure.
Was I getting tired of being Santa's helper, or are you still? Because you're.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just getting the letters to Santa.
Oh, that's right.
I'm sure it is Santa.
So that happens up there then, and it's sent back.
Mhm.
Is this broadcast? That's
Yeah.
right, it is, isn't it? All right. Good call. Terrible. All right. Thanks, guys. Let's go to new business. Petition for special assessment district. Kind of what we talked about last week. Ron, you want to have at it?
So as we were talking about the projects, the number one and number two project on the list, Children's Museum, we had a high-end estimate of 2.6 million for the infrastructure for that project. So we have a petition to the city council for that project. We also have the outdoor rec area, roadway and parking, and a surface trail that comes into the property. We had just 1,020,000 was the estimate on that. Total of around 3.6. My recommendation would be to petition the city to create an assessment district for these projects. And these are the petitions that they sent over from finance and engineering. They've talked through this already. Needs the blessing of the council, so this would be the first step for us to motion to petition them to create the district. And we would get started right away on the Children's Museum project, and then after the first of the year, have a discussion about the other one. And these are what the petitions look like. You have to get those signed by board president if you guys approve. And then we'll support them on the city.
Okay, any questions from commissioners? Seemed like that was kind of the consensus a week ago. If we're there still.
So do we need a motion?
I think we probably need a motion and a second and a vote, yeah.
I'll make a motion that we proceed with the petition for both special assessment districts, the one at the Overlook and the one at the outdoor rec area.
Moved by Commissioner Emery,
Second.
second by Kitzman. Any discussion, further discussion?
Ron, just one clarification. I know we've been through this lots of times, but with creation of the district, which I think is a good idea. What's the impact of the cost? Does it vary with the interest rates and bonding? What
Yeah,
is the park district
there are,
impact totally on that?
there are fees that the city will add on to this project and put into the assessment district, and they will charge a higher interest rate than what the bond is as well. So they make a little money on the deal. So the rate will be a little higher than if we were to do it ourselves, but this way we can use our special assessment money to make the payments on these bonds, and it doesn't count towards our debt limit. So we're preserving where we're at right now with that. So, and the rates are especially low right now.
Any other questions or discussion? All right, let's do a roll call on this one, Ellie.
Hovde,
Yes.
Fitz,
Yes.
Emery,
Yes.
Gibson,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes. Number 2, new business. Request for proposal for architect and engineering services on future planning on large projects.
I don't have anything ready for you to look at. This is part of our discussion moving forward, looking at our other larger projects that aren't gonna happen next year, but they're in the future. We need to start looking at this facility and the Mesa site, the other projects that are out there. We need some help with an engineering firm to help us with that. To really look at this building and see what we could potentially use it for in the future, if we do choose to use it, or do we choose to just look towards other facilities in the future and really delve into the details of all those facilities for us. So I'm asking for just permission to put an RFP together. You know, we can start that process. We have Ackerman Asphalt right now doing estimates on the Mesa site, but if we do this, then we pick a firm, we get probably multiple proposals for this project. But we could pick a firm that we would then stick with for the projects in the future. If we were to build one of the projects, we'd start with this firm and follow through. But it's really only fair for us to do an RFP and give everybody a shot at the projects if we're gonna do them in the future. So this would just start the process.
Not spending any money, obviously, or anything like that, just get more people a chance.
I'm sure we'll get good interest, to get somebody on board, so.
I make a motion to authorize Ron to get RFP for future projects.
And second.
Okay, motion and a second, Schmidt and Hovde. Any more discussion or questions for anyone?
I just like to add comment, I think that's an excellent idea. I think we're obviously looking at an unusual year and coming up perhaps too. And that kind of information, be able to make good decisions. So it's a good investment. It's necessary. We got some hard decisions coming up and some big money things. So we need all the information we can get. Good idea.
Good, guys. All right, let's call the roll on this one too, Ellie.
Putnam,
Yeah.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Emery,
Yes.
Hickman,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes, passes. Number 3, the carryover list for this year, which is in front of us, I believe.
Up on the screen, and you probably have a copy of it. We go through this every year. Some of these projects on our list that are, we just weren't able to do, or we may combine projects together next year, but these are ones that we want to carry the funds forward for next year.
All right, see the list in front of us? Entertain a motion if we want to do that.
We can go ahead and approve the carry forwards as presented.
Second.
All right, from that side of the table. We're going back and forth. It's a good system. Someone's gonna get stuck with one they don't want though. Any discussion? Discussion? Do we need to do a roll call or
Yes, that we.
go for it?
Putnam,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Emery,
Yes.
Hickman,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes. Number 4 is the amendments to the Magic City Discovery Center agreement that Mr. Henkla brought to us, and condolences on your family's loss.
Well, thank you.
Huge
Thank you, everyone.
Pillar of the community, absolutely. A pillar of the community.
Well, thank you very much. I do appreciate it, and I'm sorry, Ken, when you were saying condolences, I was trying to get things. But I do appreciate that, and I apologize for the last meeting when there was some kind of indenting errors and so forth. I was trying to get the stuff like that.
No worries.
On to the business at order, Mr. President and board members. I had a phone conference with the Magic City Discovery Center attorney, and we went through the previous agreements, which was kind of a joint venture agreement between ourselves and the Magic City Discovery Center. The Children's Museum is what they're calling it, we have a Discovery Center now. And we looked at amendments to that agreement. And then we also looked at the ground lease agreement. And specifically what we're doing here is we're trying to add language within both of these documents that will assist them in complying with the requirements for the federal grant that they received, which is going to be a huge chunk of the monies that are going to be used for the development of the Magic City Discovery Center. So while implementing some of those additions into the agreement, we did some housekeeping because the agreement is several years old and they're farther along in the process and so forth. So I will not take you line by line unless you want me to. I'm sorry I dropped this agreement on you so late, but we just had our kind of conference call this afternoon. And we implemented the changes. I'll just go through some highlights, which I think would be kind of substantive issues that we want to be aware of. Specifically in the amended and restated agreement, which is our kind of our joint venture type agreement that we have with the Children's Museum. We've specifically added the legal description for the property that's being covered in the agreement. Since the original agreement was adopted, we platted and we have specific identifying information.
We have a real address.
Yeah, we have a real address and we have a real legal description. And that's just nice to have in there. Secondly, I think from a substantive standpoint, as part of their agreement for the grant,
there are certain things that we need to be providing as the park district. In our original agreement, we weren't paying for their parking lot. But I think we're, under the grant proposal, we're kind of required to do that. We knew about that, I believe that was incorporated in the bidding for the paving projects and all that stuff. So that is what I would say is a substantive change from the original agreement that was adopted in 2018. Let's see. Other than that, there is some of the standard language such as references to the grant program that the Children's Museum is receiving money under, and obligations that they have as the recipient of that money, as well as the recipient of some Magic City funds, that they're going to account for it. They're going to allow us to inspect their books as well as the city, and to do those things. So that is just something to be aware of. I believe they're adequately addressed in this agreement, giving us the ability to inspect. We are accepting a responsibility. We are accepting a responsibility that we are going to reasonably ensure that they have followed the rules. We are a partner in these grant proposals, both with the city as well as with the Defense Department. So we will have certain obligations to review, make sure that they're complying with the rules, but the primary obligation in this agreement says they're responsible for that. There is a provision, however, says we have to do our due diligence, we have to act reasonably, we have to oversee them. So that is something worth noting, but I think that's something that's has been known to us. It's not anything new. They added some language as it was just clarifying who's going to be responsible for constructing the streets and parking lots. That's us. Who's going to be responsible for maintaining? Nothing's really changed there. We might have just a little bit in the way of assistance for landscaping or developing the landscaping on the project, which I think is something that we really, so that's essentially the changes to the agreement. The other thing that would be most notable, but it is a crucial element to the grant program through the Department of Defense, is previously there were going to be no liens against park property. But with this grant, the federal grant does require that the federal government receive kind of a notice of interest in the property, just to kind of ensure that their grant is followed through with, and to ensure that the Children's Museum fulfills their reporting requirements and does those things that they agreed to do in that grant process. Since we are the owner of the property, not the Children's Museum, we have to allow that notice of federal interest is recorded against our property. But that is only going to be in place for a period of 30 years. After 30 years, it goes away. I guess we are a partner in the project with Children's Museum. If the project does go south, there might be some implications that we're going to have to deal with if that venture goes south. But definitely no different and no greater than if it was, a similar business, a regular commercial process. I would foresee that there are things that we would have at our disposal to lessen the impact of that in the event there was a failure on the children's museum standpoint, but they're gonna be fully paid off. You know, they'll have all their facilities paid for and they'll have their, exhibits paid for, so, you know, you have to analyze that, but I presume the risk is minimized substantially through those aspects of their program. So I don't know, I realize I'm springing this on you. There might be certain formatting issues as it would relate to this, spacing wise and so forth. I think the numbering is correct, but I'm not gonna bet my life on it. And this is what is agreeable, I think, in my, from my aspect, from the legal sense, on behalf of the Minot Park District. I believe it is agreeable as it would relate to the Children's Museum, but we are not the only parties that are involved in this grant proposal, and therefore, and we are, I think, the first board is formally approving this. So
I assume there's gonna be some tweaking on this.
I'm comfortable with the agreement as it stands, but I would anticipate that there's going to be some tweaking. Yeah, if that makes sense. I'm trying to, you know, I'm aware of it.
They just own the building.
And, are there any questions of anybody?
Pete, when we started this a few years ago, we weren't through the legalese and all of that. And the impression a little bit of on our part at that time was, we really didn't want them to get going on this unless they had enough money. And now we feel they do. But we also had the impression if this thing goes 10, 12, 14 years and goes bad, that the building would be Park District. Now, I know we did that long before we got to this, so where are we at on that? I mean, you just told us, but give me
The building is ours from the get-go.
from the gift.
From the get-go, they, once they, you know, sign off on the building and accept the building, it's our building.
So
Don't we-
that really hasn't changed.
Right.
Don't we charge them like $1 a year or something like that?
It's
Is that
a-
what we're doing?
it's
No,
a-
It's just a ceremonial thing, yeah.
It's a, yeah. So, come with that comes the obligation, it is our building, we're the only people that really have an insurable interest in the building, we have to purchase the insurance on the building, but the lease agreement, which I'll move to now, requires them to reimburse us for, the insurance as it relates to that building. So that's gonna be a no monetary impact to the Park District. So in theory, as presently structured, aside from the infrastructure that we have to supply to the project, which I think we've already kind of budgeted ahead on that. Yeah. You know, it should be a zero-sum game for the Park District or very, very minimal.
I'm glad to hear that.
There might be administrative things, you know, making sure that this is done. That's time that Park District employees are spending on the grass and plowing snow, things like that. Pardon?
Mowing the grass, plowing snow.
Oh, yes, but that, yes, that is true. Thank you
General
very much.
maintenance that we do at, like we do at SAT Park.
But that is
We
something,
do a lot more there.
that is something that we have already accepted in the agreement that we executed, you know, when we initially went into the project. And that's what I meant by zero sum. We're not taking, this amendment doesn't take on any more responsibility.
Can I make one more comment? Since
Absolutely.
it's the end of the year, and we're talking about our staff. You know, we have had in the Park District mediocre council, we've had outside council. And sometimes the mediocre council we had ended up getting us in a little bit of trouble or didn't get us out of the trouble we should have never been in. So it got taken care of, but so from that standpoint, I just want to say thank you to Pete. I feel very comfortable with the advice we're getting. I think it's absolutely necessary for us as a Park District to have a good council, and it just towards a lot of wrong direction, and it's a hassle. So I compliment Pete, and I thank you for the work you're doing, hopefully keep doing it.
Thank you very much. I'm only able to be as effective as possible by getting good direction from our director and our waiting period. So I thank you, but it's largely on their shoulders, and they're the ones that keep me on task.
Any other questions? Did you want to go over the lease agreement
Yeah,
too?
ground
or-
lease, okay. The ground lease has, I would say, even less change to it, other than, a little more in the way of explanation under the recitals as to what's going on, the federal grant, land description, is changed to conform with the new, information. When we get to Article 5, that's where we're talking about site prep, land development and so forth, and that's where we have, and that's where we've had those changes where we're accepting parking lot and so forth, but it's really largely unchanged. There's an environmental aspect under Section 5, but that's completely the Children's Museum, purview there. And that's merely to comply with the grant process. Ownership improvements and fixtures, and that just confirms that we're the owner of the property. There were some other provisions that are required by the federal grant that have been stricken, and that would be the 3 paragraphs in section 7.3. However, they were added back because they are required provisions, but they were added back in the appropriate section, which is 12, dealing with obligations of funds and so forth. So, as far as substantive issues or changes, 12.4 specifically is where those 3 paragraphs were added back. Substantive issues as it would relate to the actual leasing of the property, aside from the notice of federal interest that we've already discussed, there really is no real change with regard to the maintenance and agreements between the parties as it relates to use of the property. So I don't know if people have any further changes or further questions. And again, this is something that counsel for the Children's Museum and I have gone over and reviewed and agreed upon language. I need to forward these changes to her, but the board doesn't meet yet or hasn't met yet, and I want to make sure to get it ready for you. And I wouldn't be shocked if there were further tweaking to that agreement, or this agreement.
So do we not need to do anything tonight with it then? Or
No, I think-
you think we should approve it, and even if it's gonna change again? Yeah,
I think
Okay.
we should.
If we have to amend it again, we'll bring it back next week.
But again, for both of these documents, I'm comfortable. Are they is absolutely everything our way? But no, based on the original agreement, everything wasn't our way. But I think it's straightforward. I think it's clear with the exceptions that I've noted. I think they're okay to sign. I think they are good agreements for what we're trying to do, and that is support the Children's Museum.
And there's flexibility to change if we.
Someone has to approve first. And in a perfect world, we would have had, a month or two to kind of all the parties get together and exchange and so forth, but the exchanging started last week, and they have a deadline of a week or two from now on. Somebody's got to approve it first, and I guess where the board is in that position. Good job.
any further questions, or if anyone feels so driven to make a motion?
I'll move to approve this as printed right now.
And that's both documents?
Well, with change, noted change as it changes, noted.
Got a motion
Second?
and a second? You got that, Ellie?
Yep.
All right, any further questions or comments?
We do some, I don't know what you even call it, due diligence. I mean, for instance, they have to keep it insured, they pay for it. Do we get a copy of the insurance policy so we can oversee that, or? I mean, it's the most expensive thing on the property. How do we do our oversight?
There would be kind of two different, insurances that would be covering that property. The first would be the insurance that covers the structure and improvements on the property. We are the people that put that insurance in place. So we have absolute control as to whether or not there's insurance in place and what the terms of that insurance is. And the cost of that insurance is in your top. Then there is the liability aspect of the property, which would be the Children's Museum's operations. And there's kind of two components of that, two main components of that. First would be a liability for the park district, which we already have through our normal liability coverage through the North Dakota Insurance Reserve Fund, and that will cover any liability that is our own doing. Okay. Then there is the component of the property and casualty for accidents on the property. That is a policy that would be put in place by the Children's Museum. And the Children's Museum is required by the terms of the lease to list us as an additional insured. So, so they can't really, we're covered. Because we have our own insurance, and we have limited limits because we're a political subdivision. And we have our own insurance, and they're listing us as an additional insured, and we have the ability to request proof of insurance and so forth.
Sounds good.
And you'll have a chance to review their policy also.
Yeah, we have the ability to review.
Yeah, we do this with all of our other facilities, so, we
That's
will
normal.
have to look at it, but that's just normal
Yeah,
business.
you know, insurance contracts are such that I think that we take that policy or take that question to our normal insurance carrier for facilities, which I think is First Western Insurance, or it used to be. And we have them look at it, and they can give us an opinion as to. But
Jared deals with that.
I can as well,
Monthly, and
but they're actually, you know, they're the experts in that area, so.
One more question for you on insurance. Since this is going to be a museum, the items in the museum, are those covered under our insurance as a building? Or do they need also get insurance for this climbing wall they're going to have, or any other thing that's part of the museum?
And I just want to make sure I have the correct question outlined in my mind. As it would relate to their operation, their guests, and their guests' use of the facilities, which would include the climbing wall, that's their insurance.
The actual climbing wall itself.
That would be part of their operations, and it would be their exhibit, and it would be their insurance.
So their exhibit.
The boiler is technically ours, you know.
But that's what I was looking for, exhibits.
It's the liability coverage for the use and operation of the Children's Museum would be under their policy. And
I guess I wasn't
North
looking at
Dakota's a
like.
comparative full state, so we can only be responsible for our liability, and the mere fact they have a climbing wall and they're allowing people to use it, we're the owner of the building, we really have no liability associated with
I
that.
wasn't looking at liability,
Okay,
it's replacement. If the building catches on
So if there's a
fire.
big fire and one of the
If there's a
exhibits
big-
goes
big fire,
away, yeah.
Whose insurance covers the exhibits?
contents and fixtures would be general,
That would come under our policy?
most likely.
Okay, I just,
If it's there would be at least an amount to go for.
I didn't know if they had to get, if they had to get something like renter's insurance.
Permanent fixtures.
I would,
Or any other way to put it.
I would presume under the grant, they're gonna be using structural, but that's a presumption I haven't seen.
I'm sure they'll address that problem.
Right. And so that-
Sorry.
Structure,
So they're-
facility,
Share that with
fixtures,
them because that's how we
I'm
got
not,
it.
not an insurance expert, but if it's affixed to the building,
right?
you take that building and turn it upside down and it doesn't fall out, that goes in the structural side. If it,
Permanent.
if it can fall out, then it's a business personal property,
And,
EP or something like that.
and will be removed, easily removed, and a wall like that would be.
And I don't know how much stuff they're gonna have that would fit that, but is it a
So if the
cost?
building burns down, we'd have to, our insurance would have to cover the permanent fixtures, replacing them, but if somebody gets hurt on that structure, that's the.
Yeah, that's
liability
different.
side, so we-
But an exhibit that can be taken out,
Then that's gonna fall on, probably on there.
and that's what I'm saying,
And
is
over
that's
the
something
years,
that
they
we need
will
to make
change.
sure they have insurance on that
Yes.
stuff.
I mean, hopefully a lot.
I mean, under the terms of the lease,
Covers what?
Start the bottom.
We'll have that all itemized.
I'm enjoying
Their
this.
policies will know that for sure, what they'll cover and what they won't.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure that,
Somebody,
that,
if ours doesn't cover it, then they have to go.
I would assume there's a pretty standard way this is done.
Yeah.
Right, and we're gonna follow that, and
but I meant
But it's
on
surprising.
other things that we've done, like Mesa Arena, we don't have, the hockey booths and figure skaters don't have a real significant portion of the equipment. Same thing with the zoo folks and stuff. This could be a little bit different to where those exhibits could be very expensive. And if we're carrying a $2 million policy, throw a number out in there, and the building's $2 million, who's gonna pay for the rest of the stuff? I just wanna make sure that that's, like I said, it could be something as simple as a renter's type.
They'll do the review and tell us what the limits are, and what the insurance, and some of it you have to buy extra insurance for from another company to make it whole. They put it all together for us.
We had to do that with our water slide. There's things we had to buy excess insurance on to cover if something happens. We have quite a few things right now.
and you can only obtain insurance for those things that you own or have an ownership interest in. And we're not gonna own the exhibits. Therefore, we're not really gonna be in a position where we can insure the exhibits. We obtain an insurable interest in the property when it becomes permanently affixed, a fixture to our building. And that's the example of
The
your
exhibit should be changeable, it should be permanent, but there might be some part of it that is, but most of it is gonna be changeable.
And, that's, I'm not saying that that is not a issue for us, but that is something that is handled through a discussion and just saying,
And that's what I was looking at, that, that the discussion is there so that they're aware, but they're not thinking that their exhibits are covered because we got the insurance.
Yeah.
If they're not covered, then they need to know that if they are, they're gonna reimburse us anyway, so.
And that's gonna be looked at not just by us, but by the DOT.
Yeah. because they're using.
Everything that's not permanent in there is actually gonna have a little federal ID on it to keep their interest in place. They have to do an inventory and do a report. A whole bunch of paperwork goes on with it.
And if for some reason we find out that those exhibits are not insured by them, I believe that is something, therefore, if we can get our insurance company to allow us to insure them, we can spin that premium back on.
all right. Any other, we talk this some more, or should we, we good to go? All right, let's call the roll.
Putnam,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Emery,
Yes.
Kitson,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes. Thanks. All right, jumps into old business. There's nothing listed there. Is there anything we want to talk about? Do we want to talk some about the other projects that we were talking about a week ago? I mean, I know we did the,
Yeah, I would like
the special assessment
Just a
stuff.
quick discussion on the other, we have a couple others that we had in our top of our list. We have 1.545 million dollars in cash in our future development fund. We want to do, when the roadway and paving project is done, we also want to do the first section of the trails. We want to use that cash towards that, and that estimate is $529,771. We also talked about dedicating some cash to the leopard exhibit project. The remaining, probably the remaining number right now is the cash on hand that they have and what we have left from our bond issue. There's 1.8 million remaining on that project. I would recommend we dedicate 800,000 in cash towards the project and then challenge them to match that. And I'm talking Zoo Crew, or Zoo Society, to raise matching funds to that. So we keep that in our bank account until they come up with a match to that. Then release it. And with our discussions with them, that would probably get them to the point where we can do the project between us and them. And they have some other commitments that they're gonna find out about soon there. Between the dollars that we have in cash and what they raise, that would get us going on that project. But we wouldn't have to spend that money, we can just hold it until they come up with the matching fund. That leaves us in that future development line of a little over 200,000 that we could talk about for the other projects that we have on our list. Maybe we could take one of those off of our list with just cash instead of having to borrow money. And I'd like to leave that. We can think about that, talk about it again in January with the remaining projects that we have on the list. See what we want to do. We don't have to rush on those, so.
Yeah, that was kind of my question. We don't need to feel an urgency tonight or anything like that.
No, but that would be my recommendation, to just get those other ones moving. And the leopard project, we don't have the money right now, but if we dedicate that much, that gives them a big jump start, challenge them to raise that at least at the match. And I think by the time that part is done, we have enough money to actually do that project.
And they kind of know that, I mean, that they're talking about jumpstarting their fundraising efforts again, it sounds like, and
Right.
Yeah.
So then just leave the rest for discussion in next month. We can talk about it again and see what you want to do with the other ones.
any questions or comments?
No,
or-
but putting those funds out and making them available for a match, that really helps those folks raise the money, knowing full well that the money's there. It's a good idea.
I know Minot State Foundation just took advantage of that here this last year with the summer theater and matching a lot of dollars. It's a good tool.
So that'd be my recommendation, and that gets us moving on the first two projects, that would complete both of them, and then set the leopard project up for hopefully successful fundraising effort this year.
What would that, was it 379 towards the trails? Is that what you said?
529.
529.
529.
Our estimate is.
520. So what would that get us out there?
They give us about 3 miles of trails out there.
3 miles
So
of trail?
that, yep, so that gives us,
There's some hard surface trails.
yeah, that gives us, yep, we get hard surface and aggregate and then the lookout point, so if you were in handicap accessibility or something, that you still have access as well.
And it gets us a big loop through the drainage area, and once you get to the edge of it, we have a loop that will go all the way around the most beautiful part of that property. And then we've got plans to offshoot that, do a trail all the way around, but we can just work on that as, just phase that in.
So that would be a completed trail system up there
Yes,
that'd be usable.
With a parking lot and a road into it.
Parking lot,
Yeah.
And that would have the 3 surfaces.
We may, when we meet with the A&E firm on that, there's some hard surface trail that might be eligible to go into the assessment district, so maybe that cuts that down and we can get some more of the natural surface trail done with our cash, or spend less cash on that part of it, so we can have some more for the others. So we'll work on that, maybe by next month we'll have an answer to that as well. Maybe we'll have a little more cash that we can put towards some of the other projects that we talked about.
Is there we talk about waiting till next month, does it make sense to go on the record if that's the will of the board to kind of show a commitment to the Zoo Crew that we are going to do that, or?
Well, I think it would be nice,
we're not
We're not
sending it
money
out yet.
until-
It's just
until they come
saying
with their match,
it's kind of earmarked.
It's earmarked anyway, the state.
What I like about this, plan that you have run is excellent. I think we need to spend some of that money and not borrow all of it. But also, we talked about it, if we're doing the entrance and the road out there, and then the trails, we have something done when we get off the trail, or get off the entrance. I think that's important, and it absolutely commits us to having done something with that project within the time frame. But it's, so I would make a motion if you would entertain that to dedicate the 800,000 as a share match. Is that how you want to put that? Or at least for authorize Mr. Mayor to have that discussion, so that it's there, and then like Ken said, you got a much better chance of working with it. So I make a motion on the $800,000 to use as a share match under Mr. Mayor's description.
I'll second that.
Okay. Do we want to consider the money for the trails as well, or do you want to just stay with the 800? At the beginning of your comments, you kind of talked about getting the road and the parking lot and then having that. Do we want to try and do that as well and put the, what is it, 529?
You commit to that now. Maybe next month we'll come back and say we don't have to spend quite as much in cash on that, but that would be a good thing, so. But
That's,
this is our estimate right now.
that's true. I guess we could wait for that part of it.
We need to get the special assessment in place first, which is the entrance
Well, yeah, but we want.
for the trails.
We kind of want to, this spring, we want to bid all of it out, so, we want to get started on getting the final plan set done for the trails. We've got at least a good estimate from our agency firm, but we want to get them to finalize the plan. So this is our estimate right now. We're hoping maybe that we can spend less cash on the trails and maybe do part of the hard surface trails could be done under the assessment district project instead. So we'll figure that out in the next few weeks. We do want to do both. I think we want to do both. We're gonna have a nice parking lot. We want the trails done as well. And people are gonna love that area. All of our trails are really popular. They put cameras up at some of the trails and it counts. It's just amazing how many people use those trails. I mean, they're just constantly.
I do think too, and maybe this is wishful thinking, but I think if we can get the ability to get people out there, I think that's gonna open our grant funding possibilities. I don't know if outdoor heritage fund is ever going to happen there, but I think if we can get people out there and we can get counts and things like that, which with Scott with the cameras has been huge. I think we're on my end of being able to write a grant, and I can say from this day to this day, we average this many people, because I think we're gonna even be shocked by it, so, I think it is important that we get something done out there.
I'm missing, we got a donation already towards this as
We
well.
do, we haven't been able to name it yet, but we got a $50,000 donation for signage on this fund, it's a,
So that already cuts that number down.
Yeah.
quite a bit, so.
So I support the trails. I'm just wondering if when we're applying for grants, having committed 500,000, does that decrease our odds of getting a little more money? Should we wait on that? I mean, you've been through that process a couple of times.
but I think it's important, in my opinion, I think we should do the 5, just because we have way more trails than this is just the first pickup of trails for that. If you look at our full plan, there's probably about 10 more miles of trails that we have penciled out there. So I think this would be a really good pickup for it. And the grant that we're looking at, I would say that if we could get some of these hard surface trails done, we'd have more of an opportunity.
For the natural surface trails, it would be easier to get grant money for that.
Commissioner Emery?
Whether or not we want to amend the motion to include the trails, if not, I would make a motion after that to do that. And my reasoning would be is that we're asking the city to do money for a parking lot. And if we don't commit to doing those trails and commit that money, we're doing a parking lot to nowhere.
The bridge to nowhere, I was, yeah.
So think if you don't want to amend the motion and to include the 529, then we can vote on that, the motion we have, but I would be following up with another motion to include that 529, because it just makes sense. You're gonna build a parking lot, why are you building a parking lot? Or put trails in.
Well, do we want to just go with what it is, or what are your feelings, Commissioner
Yeah,
Hubda?
I mean, my only concern was, is it gonna help us or hurt us in the future? And I think we absolutely should use the trails, because a parking lot to nowhere is really counterproductive. So I would amend it to say 800,000 for the match and 529,000 for trails at the outdoor recreation site.
Is that good with the second?
It is.
Is that good with Ellie? You got that?
I got it, yeah.
We're good? Okay, any other discussion? Discussion?
To come back next month and tell you that we'll be spending a little less on trails than that, so that hopefully we'll have some news on that.
All right, go ahead, Ellie.
Hubda,
Yeah,
Schmidt,
Yes.
Emery,
Yes.
Hickman,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes. All right, any other old business? How about other business that anyone has? All right, no alcohol permits, so let's go to Mr. Merritt.
Honestly, I have nothing, no school board, I think we covered everything already.
Okay,
Yeah, but actually a lot, so.
let's do commissioners' reports. Let's start with Commissioner Kids.
For what now?
Commissioners' report, if you have anything
No,
to
I have
add.
not.
Oh, okay. Commissioner
I'm
Evans?
still thinking about it.
I'd just like to commend the staff for the work that's done the past year. We've had a good year, all things considered, with the challenges. Wish them all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Mr. Schmidt?
Just echo what Commissioner Emmer has to say. Like I've said before, his staff is unbelievable. Department heads are unbelievable. Thank you very much. And the only thing I can say is remember, next time we meet is 2021, right? Put this behind us. So
Maybe we'll
thank
have
you.
a special meeting before then. You just never know. Kidding. Commissioner Hubda?
I would echo both thoughts on this year. It's been extraordinary, but well done. Maybe just add a note that to Ron and his headquarters staff, the planning and the thought and the foresight really drive this park district in the right direction. I mean, what we did tonight, we did a lot, but I think we also positioned ourselves for the future, which in one small item, I've already said, but I think spending that money is a good idea at this time. It's a good investment, but also it reduces what we might think we need to borrow. And I don't think we should have $1.5 million in the bank if we're thinking about borrowing money or we're having public relations in the time of COVID when money is a huge question mark in everybody's mind. So we should handle our finances well, and I think at this point we're doing that. We do have obviously some very challenging, difficult decisions coming up. So that kind of leadership and thought and vision are going to be even more important. So I would just say, well done.
Right, thanks, Commissioner, and I agree. It's been I think the Park District has been a shining light this year in our region, and proud to be a small little part of it, because people come up and they notice the attitudes of the staff, and we've provided some fun this year where other places were not allowing fun, and I appreciate that. All right, I think we're good. What do we do? Do we do a motion to close the meeting? I can't even remember.
I'll move to adjourn.
Let's do that. Okay, motion
Second.
and second, all in favor? Opposed? All right, let's go to the foundation meeting. Personal appearances. All right, let's look at the minutes from last month. Entertain a motion.
Move to approve the minutes for November 17th foundation.
Motion
Second.
and a second. Discussion? Discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we have a couple of bills, it looks like. Sign design, signs today for the zoo anything to add, Jared, or we're good with them? Looks like
Yeah, the foundation.
$3,634.82.
Move to approve.
Motion.
Second.
And a second. Discussion?
November's film,
It was cold, it's gonna be
It was
cold.
cold.
Yeah, turn the heat up.
Let the minutes show that, no. Call the roll.
Upton,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
Gibson,
Yes.
Wilson.
Yes. Statement was there. If anyone has anything they can offer. Stock market's over 30,000. That's good. New business, other business? Entertain a motion to close the meeting?
So moved.
Moved. And second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Thanks, guys. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, happy holidays.
Christmas and Happy New Year to all. I'm doing the math, but it fogs my glasses every time I